when you're fear. There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, I'm hollow on the inside. There's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me like the world defines me, image of what I have become.
And welcome back to another episode of the Browns Beat Podcast. Derek, the Cleveland Browns lose in quite literally the most just drawn out, terrible fashion against the LA Chargers. Derek, before we get any further into this, because it's going to get lost in the conversation of today, that Chargers defense is unbelievable. Like, it's a really good defense. And you know what? Were there things that the Browns did offensively that were not good and that should have been better? Absolutely. But before we go any further on the discussion from this game, let's take a moment to say just like, wow, that defense. It's what we were last year. It's a really special group, and they found a way to just completely neutralize everything that this team could possibly do. And the only way we got on the board was only way we got into the end zone was a garbage time touchdown that quite literally was probably one of the most impressive catches of the year, and that's saying something considering some of the grabs we've seen so far this year. I mean, Derek, just, you know, I wanted to start off with that, but give me your thoughts just off the top. How did you feel about this game?
Well, everybody, I would like to welcome you to the Jameis Winston roller coaster ride, because this is exactly what this is, and it's always what it's been. So I'm not surprised. And Tristan, last week there was a lot of people, and I don't say this as a fault to anybody because it is understandable, but I think you're seeing the same thing happen this week on the reverse effect. There was a lot of people last week who I would say overreacted to the win, right? And understandably so. And I think there's a lot of people overreacting to this loss. Listen, the Browns are going to be what we're going to be. I mean, we're recording this on Monday evening. We delayed recording this because there were supposed to be guys traded by now, and they are not. So it looks like that might come tomorrow, of course. So we'll see. But nevertheless, this team is what it is. This team is still not a great football team. This team is still not going to win anything significant. However, we're going to get another game or two the rest of the season. Like, that's not it. We're not losing out for sure, but we're also not winning out. The truth is somewhere in between. Now, the question lies where? Where is that balance going to be? Tristan, the Browns are in the hunt for a top pick in the NFL draft. And partially why I say guys should have been moved, like, this is it. As if we haven't had many other nails in the coffin, this is the final nail. This is an AFC team that if you wanted to do anything and kind of see what you have, like, this is the team to do it against. And yes, I 100% repeat what you're saying. The Chargers defense is legit. That was my number one takeaway out of that game. And even, we'll dive into it, but like a lot of the turnovers that occurred in that game, as bad as Jameis was with some of them, a couple of them were just straight up skill from that Chargers defense. The one that was batted right at the goal line, tipped up, picked, like, that is pure skill. Like, that's And then you have Jameis Winston throwing it to a Chargers defender with nobody within 10 yards of him. And you're like, all right, whatever. So, again, everybody, welcome to the Jameis Winston experience. Strap your seats, hold on, get ready, because this roller coaster is going to have you very happy and very pissed off all at the same time.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah. In terms of people who overreacted to last week, I'll raise my hand, man. That was me. I thought,
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh,
but,
no, it's okay. I'll point the finger at myself. It's fine. And listen, like, I think my reasoning at the time for why I felt like it was possible that the Browns could come back and get into a playoff spot. I think the logic behind it was still grounded, like, in some form of reality. Like, I'm not saying that it was crazy to say that. Yeah, Derek, I think that what you said, absolutely. As far as fans overreacting, like, I'm just gonna raise my hand. Like, that's all me. That was definitely
improv skills A+. Great job.
Thank you. Yeah, it was all me. That was overreacting last week. Although I will say this, I don't think that it was completely crazy for me to say what I said last week. What I thought I saw during that game against the Ravens was I thought I saw last year's team coming back this year, and that was where I was kind of grounding my logic, and the season's not over. Because last year, one thing that we learned about especially the Joe Flacco Browns was, you cannot count that team out ever. They're always going to fight tooth and nail. Heck, just the Browns last year. We beat the 49ers with PJ Walker. There were so many of those moments where it was like we did the impossible, that the impossible no longer felt like it was impossible. And that's kind of where my logic was. But I think now it's pretty plainly obvious, you're not going to get that this year. It's much, much different. This team's capable of giving you a performance like that, but as far as putting it together week after week, I think that ship has sailed. If we would have made the change at quarterback a couple of weeks sooner, I think that we would both be here right now, sitting here saying, yeah, the season's not over, because I think we'd have a couple more wins under our belt. But unfortunately, just the reality of where we're at right now. And yeah, you said it really well. That Chargers defense, just they made some great plays. Something in particular I want to bring up is on that pass where Jameis threw that pick and nobody was around the football. The reason why nobody was around the football was because essentially that corner that was lined up on Tillman knew his job simply was to prevent Tillman from cutting inside. If he went outside numbers, it was fine, because that's the way that it was designed to go. The way that defensive play call was supposed to go. So he got perfectly into Cedric Tillman's way. I think it definitely was not enough to be like a defensive pass interference or anything like that. It was just a guy playing his position really, really well. And you know what? Jameis was just way too early with it. And fair enough, because he had to be. That defensive line of the Chargers was all over him. Yeah, it was just great execution on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, hats off to the Chargers defense. They played great. But yeah, Derek, I think you said it best. This is what this Cleveland Browns team is. It's just, it's a bunch of guys is what it is, quite frankly. And you know what? We knew that there would still be some fallout after Deshaun Watson went down this year. I just don't think that we anticipated what that fallout would be. And I think, or at least I certainly didn't. And I think that this is the week where we see a lot of it start to really, really get put into motion.
Yeah, we absolutely should. I'm shocked that nothing... Again, let me repeat. I'm shocked that nothing has come yet. The only explanation that I have is they're on the phones right now. Like, they are working things out right now. In my opinion, the Browns are in a spot where it's solely focused on the draft. And I hate to be that guy that at this point in the year is like draft, because we've been doing that many times throughout the past. But that's where we're at. And listen, this team has some assets. I'm not saying top tier first round pick, not even second round pick assets. But if you can move off of, I would say, I think minimum 3 guys need to be moved off this team. There are teams that could use them. If you can do that and get more 3rd round picks, 4th round picks, 5th round picks, whatever you can get, you have to understand, when you look at what the NFL draft is, look at it from a baseball perspective. Each draft pick is a pitch thrown to you, and it's just another shot to hit a ball. And the Browns have swung out many, many times, but if you can get more shots to swing that bat, Tristan, we could add a couple pieces to this team, but in order to do that, you have to have those picks. You have to be able to go out and acquire those picks. And you say, okay, who's the 3 guys? Whatever. Well, Zadarius Smith should be gone, 100%. Not that I don't like him, not that I don't think he's valuable. He just does nothing for the Cleveland Browns right now, for the future.
Yeah, that's perfect to add that in, for the future.
Yes.
Exactly.
He's great right now. Like,
He
don't
is.
get me wrong. He's an awesome player.
Well, you could argue that he's having his best stretch as a Cleveland Brown right now. Like, that's the craziest part of it. But yeah, I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, the Browns already moved off of Amari. Amari's already gone. You add Zadarius to that list, and then I would say I'm going to keep pounding the table. I think having Greg Newsome here does no good for us for the future. I personally, again, I don't see him as a long-term piece of this defense. And Tristan, I want to bring up a point that I had in discussion today. The Browns, do we need picks? Yes. But also with this regime, this organization, I more so trust them with higher picks hitting than lower picks hitting. If you are Andrew Berry, and this is the discussion that I had. Okay, the Detroit Lions went Zadarius Smith. You picked up an extra 3rd round pick this year. I'm calling up Detroit and I'm saying, hey, I want your 2nd round pick for Zadarius Smith and a 3rd. I think that deal gets done. I think that would be tremendous for both sides.
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't like that.
Why
just
not?
because our 3rd round pick is going to be high, their 2nd round pick is going to be late. At that point, you're just trading Zadarius Smith to move up like maybe 15 places at the most. I think that's way too low value. Now, if you said Zadarius in like a 4th or a 5th for a 2nd, I think that makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
But yeah, for packaging like our 3rd round pick, I think that's way too little value on Zadarius.
Okay, what about the Bills? What if the 3rd round pick we give up is the Bills' 3rd round pick? So it would be a late 3rd.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's not something that, I don't know. For me personally, like inside the top 3 rounds is typically where, in my opinion, you find your most valuable players, the players that could hit the most. I hear what you're saying though. I like your logic, because absolutely, the further we can move up in the draft, the better, because the better quality of players that will be available to us. But at the same time, especially when we talk about these mid rounds, oftentimes AB loves to just trade down because he wants to accumulate more picks, and there's a guy further down the board that he likes in place of somebody he could get at that pick. So for me, I think that while I do agree with your logic, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense, just because I don't think that that's what Andrew Berry and company will value more. Like, I don't think that they're now. If it was a first round pick, and we were trading like our third round pick in Za'Darius, sure, yeah, that makes a lot more sense because the drop off in talent from the first round to the third round is completely different. But you know, I still don't see it, to be honest with you.
Well, I think for the bottom line for me is the Browns have to get creative with getting draft picks, whether if that means getting higher picks, more picks, whatever. And here's the reality, right? We're having this discussion. Andrew Berry might not even be making these picks. Like that's I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying it should happen. It's just a possibility. So to me, I'm thinking more along the lines of like, hey, you know, we're acquiring extra picks, stockpile all these picks. And maybe this is a conversation for the offseason when you get a more defined list of where teams are picking. But yeah, I'm of the opinion, I think the Browns stockpile, move up the most you can. Like, that is where we are. And I should add, like with the baseball analogy, right? Mm-hmm. The higher the pick you have, the easier pitch is thrown to you, I would argue. You know, and the Browns have had some easy pitches thrown their way that they have just missed. But we got to figure it out.
For me, Derek, the way I'm looking at this is I think that when you look at a trade for somebody like a Za'Darius Smith, I would prefer us to straight up get like a third rounder for him. Maybe you can throw in like a fourth or a fifth and turn it into a second. That would be great. Part of the reason why I feel that way is because essentially you want to make a Za'Darius Smith trade into a larger like trade tree for something that you get an equal or better value in the future. So like what I would say, for example, right? Let's say we trade Za'Darius Smith and like a fourth round pick, and we get a second rounder. Or you know what? Actually, scratch that. Let's say we trade Za'Darius Smith for a third rounder and like a fifth rounder or something like that, sixth rounder, something, just a bogey pick, right?
Before, let me just throw this in real fast.
Go ahead.
One thing that we do forget, and I forget, we all forget as fans, there's comp picks too.
Yeah.
Like the Browns are going to get some comp picks too,
which
I think those can be traded, right?
The compensatory picks?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think they can.
I think they can, but I don't know. That's a great question.
Go ahead, though. I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw that in.
Because
we have to factor that in that big tree that you're talking about.
Yeah. Now, that applies more so for guys on the final years of their deal. So, like, who would we... I mean, like, on one-year deals on this team, there's honestly not that many. A lot of these guys are on two-year deals. So... like 2 years left till they expire. So we won't get the comp picks until their deals expire and they sign new deals after that, assuming that they will. So personally, what I think the Browns should look to do, right? Let's say you trade Za'Darius Smith for a third round pick, Greg Newsome for like a fourth or a fifth, and that's Za'Darius Smith deal. You can maybe get another later pick or something. What you'll want to do is that third round pick that you got from Za'Darius and package in maybe like one of your seconds or something, move up to the end of the first round and get a quarterback that you want, right? That's how you parlay this. That's how, in my opinion, the Browns should be looking at this is, you know what, Za'Darius Smith, we know we're not going to get equal value by just getting a third round pick for him, right? As far as the player that he is today, odds of a third round pick panning out to be a guy like Za'Darius Smith, really not that high. And you've already got a lot of young players at that position, i.e. Isaiah McGuire. You've got, oh my goodness, Alex Wright. You know, you've got Isaiah Thomas, who I believe is on the practice squad right now. I'm not too certain on that, but there's some reps.
He got taken.
Oh, he did. That's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Another painful moment. Anyways, but point being, regardless, so in my opinion, the overall overarching thought shouldn't be that we trade Zadarius Smith for a third-round pick and take that third-round pick, because the odds of that panning out are unlikely. Odds are, in my opinion, what they should be doing, you trade Zadarius Smith, get a third-round pick, and then flip that third-round pick to either move up in the draft for somebody you really like, or you trade it for somebody who's going to be available in the offseason that you view as part of your long-term project. That's where I think this should go, in my opinion. But again, at the same time, stockpile as much of these picks as you can. At least give yourself the options. Make yourself open to options in the offseason. So yeah, Zadarius Smith, 100%, I'm with you. He probably should go. Nothing against him at all. I think he's been a good Cleveland Brown. I think he's at times been overhated. But you know what? It's just where the team is right now and what this team will look like by the time we're ready to win. Zadarius Smith wouldn't be around for that. So, you know what? I think it makes too much sense to deal him.
Yeah, and I think so. On the line of stockpiling picks, there's another factor to this that and again, not a damn thing has happened yet. So it's like we're talking about this as if it is for sure. I would be shocked. I really would be shocked if there's not at least 2 or more guys moved off this team. Which if one of them is named David Njoku, which has been a rumor, I will literally punch a hole through my TV, my wall, my computer, my car, everything that I own. No.
I will make you feel a bit better. Jordan Schultz tweeted out, let's see, how long ago was this? Oh, an hour ago. Despite receiving interest on Pro Bowl tight end David Njoku, the Browns are highly unlikely to trade him. Cleveland views Chief as part of its long-term future. So,
yeah.
There you go.
What are we seeing right now in New England? Drake May has come in. He's obviously the franchise quarterback of the future there. The Browns are going to pick a quarterback. Obviously, we'll have the debates on who and when and where later, but we're going to have a young quarterback. Young quarterbacks tend to like tight ends. And boy, oh boy, is there not much of a better one that you can have than David Njoku. Absolutely hold on to him. But back to the draft picks, back to those sorts of things for a second. Tristan, I'm intrigued to see if the Browns might look at some of these teams that are in win now mode and say, okay, some of, like maybe a young guy. I don't have a name for you. But, you know, a young guy who's got maybe 2-3 years left on his contract versus a guy that has 1 year left on his contract with us and a pick swap to get more stability heading into the offseason. Because where we're at right now is we're a team that obviously, I mean, we're see what you have mode. That's where we're at. Now, if the Browns can go out and find a young player who they like, bring him into this team, see what he can do, and then that goes into, let's just say, all right, let's throw out linebacker, right? Just hypothetical. If the Browns can go out, trade one of these assets, and maybe a pick for a linebacker and another pick, and he plays well, boom, okay. There's maybe a little bit of importance taken off of that position heading into the offseason. I don't know. This is... It's... This team is so frustrating. And listen, this is the most expensive roster in the NFL. On cash spent, $337 million. That's $15 million more than any other NFL team. And for the most expensive roster in the NFL to be 2-7 and looking the way we've looked, it's not okay. And there's going to be fallout from it. I mean, we've seen it. We are seeing it. What's the direction that they take this is more so where I'm at. Are we going to full sail by tomorrow? if we do that, what are we looking for? Are we looking for all picks? Are we looking for possible future players? Like, how are we going to handle this? How in the world are we going to handle this? And Tristan, again, I'm just going to throw this out here one more time. Who's making those picks?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that they're gonna stick with AB and DePodesta. I think that they're gonna stick with the front office that they have. And I'll be honest, I know it's really unpopular to say it right now. I do think that is the right way to go about it, because even though there are certain positions where it's like, AB really has missed in the draft here. You know, like, he hasn't had a crazy amount of picks. And let's also, like, I mean, Cedric Tillman now is starting to look like a very, very good pick by Andrew Berry, who just hadn't gotten his chance before. And the first time he got his chance, he's now proving himself. I mean, if you picked up Cedric Tillman in fantasy football, I did, you're feeling really good about yourself, because
I did as well.
So, because listen, Cedric Tillman, he's a good player, and he's showing that right now. Physically dominant, and he's showing that he can potentially be that X, right? And, you know, keep in mind, this is somebody that we picked in the 3rd round, right? It's not like a slam dunk every time you pick in the 3rd round. Obviously, we really know this. We've picked Anthony Schwartz and Siaki Ika. We know it's not a slam dunk. But the fact that you're looking at a guy who, again, it's way too early to say it, but you're looking at somebody that could potentially be your X for the future. The fact that you picked that up in the 3rd round is incredible value. Keep in mind, we picked up Martin Emerson in the 3rd round. Incredible value. DeJuan Jones in the 4th, albeit had a really, really rocky start to the year. I think he started to come on a little bit, and he's shown that there's signs he could be the franchise's left tackle of the future. I don't know if I want to put that on him right now. It's a little bit too early to say that, but to pick that in the 4th round it's incredible value. Like, there's other areas of this team where it's been that with Andrew Berry, especially in the draft. He doesn't get enough credit for it because people look at Anthony Schwartz, Siaki Ika, Jedrick Wills. Like, that stuff just kind of happens sometimes. And 2 of those guys are 3rd round picks, and he hasn't had 1st round picks, albeit you could say it's his fault. But I mean, at the same time, how many other teams in the NFL were willing to trade what the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson at the time? It's not like it was a crazy, crazy move. It ended up being the wrong move, right? But at the time, it felt like it made sense. So, like, I just think that because of the Browns having a bad season, we're going a little bit overboard when it comes to how we feel about this coaching staff and this front office. We've had football guys in the room for since the team came back to 2018, and they got us to the playoffs how many times, right? And how many times since 2018 has this team gotten to the playoffs with analytics, right? It's quite literally, I just think that it's a bad season. Nobody's going to sit here and say it's not, but let's not throw the baby out with the bath here. Like, there's plenty with this team that's going well that other teams admire about the Browns, that I think that it just needs some more time. It needs some more time. I'm not ready to completely throw out everything great that this team has been doing over the past 5 years because we've had one bad season based off of really it was just one terrible decision at quarterback, and it ended up being a very costly decision. But I you know what, call it blind faith, call me an idiot, I still believe in them.
Well, if this regime stays the same, then again, I've said it, I'll say it again, this will be the most important offseason. Like, I understand, and again, because I don't want to spark a debate now, because this is going to be a later conversation. The Browns are picking a quarterback.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yes.
I'm of the belief it will be the first pick. Not first overall, but first pick we have.
Yeah.
That's my belief. I know there's people that will disagree. We'll talk about the class. We'll talk about these guys specifically later. We'll talk about all this. But the Browns are going to pick a quarterback. That is very important. Like, that is the most important position to evaluate, scout, and draft. And listen, like, Andrew Berry, if he remains the general manager, which I want to sit here and tell you, like, yeah, Kevin's the guy, AB's the guy. Like, we're still going to go with that. Jimmy Haslam's our owner. And a couple more weeks of losing, I can't promise you, I really can't, that things are going to remain the same. But I can tell you this, the Washington Commanders are not as great of a football team as far as a roster as they seem, but they have a great quarterback, a rookie quarterback who's playing great, and like that. And I think the Browns can be in that same light. However, get it right. And that's where the pressure lies. If Andrew Berry this offseason, we have whatever pick in the draft and we take quarterback A, B, C, D, whoever you want to, whatever. My opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter. All that matters is if that guy is right and he is the guy, all of this goes away. Like, you fully have trust in AB. You fully have trust in this team's direction simply because how important that position is. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, we can talk about it, but at the same time, it's like, listen, man, what did we say a couple weeks ago? My opinion doesn't matter on the future. Yours doesn't matter. Nobody's does. This team's going to do what they want to do. And we'll see.
Yeah, and it's in some ways it's really, really sad because this team, again, this year wasn't supposed to go this way. But also, you know, especially when we talk about the draft, it gives us some hope, it gives us some optimism. And, you know, certainly I know, Derek, that you and I both are doing a deeper dive into college right now, getting ready to talk about the draft because this is going to be an exciting period in the Browns' year, is talking about this draft. And it's way more exciting than it was last offseason, that's for sure. And, yeah, I mean, Derek, I'm with you. This team's going to have to take a quarterback. I think that there is room for debate based off of what quarterbacks decide to come out from the draft, how the mock drafts are falling, how, you know, where players are ranked, because, you know, and it also depends on how the Browns finish the year. I mean, we're expecting them to maybe only win one or two more games, but I mean, we've just talked about it. Like, this team's still got a talented roster. It's not crazy to think that maybe they win like 4 of their remaining games or something like that. And
which,
now
by
you're
the
looking at a
way,
6-win team, you know, so.
By the way, I mean, everybody has been telling me all week, oh, well, the Titans are going to be picking ahead. The Panthers are going to be picking ahead. They might. They might. But guess what? The Titans just beat the Patriots. Yeah. The Panthers just beat the Saints. Like, these other teams are also going to win some games. Yeah. Like, we can't have this loser mentality of like, oh, well, we're going to fall down the draft because whatever. Like, patience. Yeah. Like, everybody, let's take a deep breath. Like, just come down to earth for a minute and let's take a deep breath. Let's let the trade deadline hit. Yeah. Let's figure out who's here, who's not. And then we can go, okay, as these weeks go on, it looks like this is where we're going to be. This is what we need. Like, oh, man.
Yeah. No, listen, and I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, it's just there's so many different directions that this team can go in the offseason. Like Derek, if you end up getting the 3rd pick, right, and you end up having Travis Hunter fall in your lap for that 1st pick, are you really upset that you didn't pick quarterback 1st overall? I'm not, personally. But with that being said, you got to have a plan for quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, do you trade into the later end of the draft of the 1st round to find your quarterback? or are you going to sign somebody in free agency that you view as like a 2-year bridge gap because you didn't have the guy in this year's draft that you felt like would have put you over the edge, regardless, whoever this team decides to put another huge investment into at the position within the next 2 years, because it's going to happen within the next 2 years, it's either going to be in free agency, they're going to make a huge investment, which I think would be the wrong move. The draft this year, they're going to make a huge investment, which, I think that would be the right move if it's the right guy, or the draft next year that they make that move. It's going to be one of those 3 times. I don't see free agency next offseason being the time where we make a move for quarterback. At that point, it's a little bit too late. We're going to do something then, and we have to get it right. We cannot get it wrong, or else everything that you could have possibly done with Myles Garrett, a generational talent at defensive end, tossed out the window. Denzel Ward, one of the best corners that this team has ever seen.
Yeah.
This team has ever seen. One of the best corners in the league right now. Gone. Doesn't matter. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's got a little bit longer, but keep in mind, that's 2-3 years down the line. Who knows if he's still the same guy, right? So you've got all these players that are super, super talented that you need to get the most out of their primes right now, especially Myles Garrett. So,
which I don't know how much about the game we're actually going to talk about in this episode.
He was incredible.
But 5 tackles, 4 solo, 3 sacks, 5 QB hits. And he was, once again, getting held all day long.
All day long. The fact that he did that to quite possibly the best tackle tandem in the league just shows you everything you need to know about Myles Garrett. They put him one-on-one. They put both of their tackles one-on-one with Myles Garrett, and both times he got to the quarterback. This guy is a different gravy, my guy. He's a different gravy, different sauce. He is generational. I don't care how much draft capital or whatever you could get for him, you're not going to be able to replace him. Mm-mm. You're not. Unless if you find a way to pull something out of nothing and strike upon a miracle. But even then, guys like Myles Garrett don't just walk into the NFL every year. Seriously, it does not happen.
Even when you think they do, and their name is Chase Young coming out of a big college who looked incredible in college. It's...
Yeah, and Joey Bosa looked great coming out of college. He's still been a great defensive end in the league, without a doubt, but he hasn't been the level of Myles Garrett.
Even Nick is great. Nick Bosa is one of the best in the league, but he's not Myles.
No, he's definitely a very, very good defensive end, easily in that upper echelon. But still, Myles Garrett is that guy, and it's just if I see a notification we traded him,
It better start with three first round picks. Better start with 3.
Even then, I was looking at I think it was Mike Tannenbaum from ESPN suggested 3 first rounders, Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think a second rounder or something like that thrown in there for the Browns for Myles Garrett. And I was sitting there and I was saying, yeah, you know what? If we were to deal Myles Garrett, that would be a solid package. Still don't think we win that trade. Don't think we win it, because even those 3 first round picks, we'd have to hit on every single one of them, and I just don't. I don't know, man. But regardless,
I can tell you, if that was an option that was slid on my table, I'm saying, all right, let's talk, because maybe it's just me. I would say, hey, listen, if you throw a slide me another 2. Slide me another 2.
That's crazy.
The point being, and there's a couple guys JOK's absence very clearly felt in this game. Now Devin Bush did grade out pretty solid. He had 8 tackles, 6 solo, 1 TFL. Grant Delpit I wanted to touch on him for a second. Grant Delpit, you talk about guys in their prime. He's in the second contract of his NFL career. This is his prime. Yeah, get a good team while you can, because that dude is special.
Yeah. By the way, another Andrew Berry pick that he has crushed.
Yes.
Crushed it. Second round pick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had, not to call him out, but I am. I don't even know if he watches my videos. Mari, you fucking moron. Talking about Grant Delpit sucks. No.
Mm-mm.
No.
He's incredible.
Grant Delpit is literally JOK, Delpit, Myles, Ward, Emerson some days. Or like, well, Tillman now too. Like, the bright spots of this team.
Yeah. Yeah. And of all those guys that you listed, 4 of them Andrew Berry drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's not get it twisted with this.
Yeah.
So, by no means am I saying Andrew Berry's without fault, but it's the conversations around him are getting a little bit disrespectful. That's what I'll say. But regardless, do you want to talk about this game at all? Because personally,
well,
oof.
How about I'll give you my general outlook, and then if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it more. This is what the numbers show. The Browns were tied 6 sacks with the Chargers. They had 6 sacks. The Browns were 6 of 17 on third down. The Chargers were 5 of 14 on third down. The Browns had 34 minutes, 9 seconds to the Chargers, 25 minutes, 51 seconds. We won the time of possession game. The penalties were the exact same. Sacks were the exact same. Third down was the exact same. What was the difference? Well, efficiency. Chargers were way more efficient. And the turnovers absolutely killed us. All in all, I thought defensively, the defensive line played outstanding. You had Dalvin Tomlinson, 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles. You had Myles, had his game. Delpit played great. Up front, I thought we played well. Linebacker room, I thought was not great, or terrible in pass coverage. Absolutely terrible in pass coverage. And then in the secondary, Thornhill, Denzel. We're weak, 9? And we're having communication errors.
Yeah.
I mean, and not once, couple times.
Yeah. So, 2 veterans, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Cost us 14 points, yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you, man.
So that's my defensive breakdown. Offensively, I think that as bad as Jameis played, there's a lot of people saying, oh, you missed Deshaun Watson. Nope, because Jameis threw for 235 yards. So tell me what Deshaun did when Deshaun did that. Tillman, 6 receptions, 75 yards, touchdown. Judy, 7 for 73. And then you had your 2 tight ends with 30 yards each. Elijah Moore, 30 yards. My takeaway is I feel good about Tillman and Judy going forward. You throw somebody else in there. I think that's a draft pick. If you hit that, I think your offense, as far as weapons go, look good. Play calling I thought was terrible. I thought play calling was absolutely terrible. And I'm not saying that in defense of Stefanski now that Ken Dorsey's calling plays. I just thought the schematics of it was atrocious. There was a couple times where guys are running in the same exact spots. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Run game. Winston took it himself for 27 yards. Chubb had 40 yards, 15 carries. Man. I thought, honestly, I will say this. I thought the offensive line, for the pressure that we faced and for the level of defense that we faced, I actually thought did a pretty good job. I was impressed with Jowon. Watched him pretty intently. He held his own. I actually thought Jack Conklin got taken for his lunch a couple times. in that game. But
Buddy,
yeah,
that was bad. Ooh.
yeah.
Khalil Mack is going to be in that man's nightmares for a while.
Teller had a good game though. I thought pretty much the offensive line did solid. I mean, they weren't perfect, but the guys that you expected to suck, not really. I mean,
Yeah, I thought Teller had a couple moments where it wasn't great for him, but overall, I mean, I don't know. It was just the right side of the O-line that really got taken advantage of. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll let you keep on going.
nope, that was me handing it off to you, buddy. I'm sipping
Oh.
on my Dunkin' right now.
Sounds good. Yeah, let me start with the defense. Yeah, I mean, two simple communication errors causes 14 points. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a pretty tight game headed into the fourth quarter. You know, it's pretty damning, especially because it comes from probably your two most veteran players in the secondary that start on a regular basis. I think it's just the reality of where this team's at right now. I mean, just simple, dumb mistakes that just keep on happening. And both of those times, it was the same exact look, same exact coverage, and both times, just it happened both times. It was inexcusable. But I thought the D-line did a great job of getting pressure in on Herbert. And in all honesty, like, I thought the defense did really well throughout the game. It just came down to those two lapses of communication really killed you, you know. And then, you know, you on special teams get a very, very long return. You know, it's just like it's stuff like that. Just it bore that defense down, and that's the reason why the Chargers got as many points as they did. But they did what winning football teams do against good defenses. They found ways to get points on the board. The Cleveland Browns just didn't. And again, listen, credit to that Chargers defense. It's incredible, but you know, it's Browns offense has to be a lot better. But I'm not done on the defense though. In particular, Myles Garrett, we kind of already talked about it. Insanely dominant game. I thought he played really, really well. I thought Isaiah McGuire had some good moments, generating pressure. Mike Hall, I thought, looked okay. Not nearly as impactful as last week, but certainly did okay. I thought Dalvin Tomlinson had a great game. Whooped his matchup. So that man deserved to win.
Would you trade him? Just to throw this in real fast.
If you got enough, yeah. Like, for me, I'd have to get at least like a third rounder to really think about it. Because he's still a great player, and whether it's a 4-2 or a 3-4, whatever ends up happening on defense moving forward, he can play. And he can play a very, very important role in whichever defense you decide to go with. So I think it would be a fairly significant loss, and we'd feel it. But yeah, I'd be open to it. Yeah, and then the secondary, I mean, yeah, again, just the communication issues. Juan Thornhill, I mean, if somebody will trade for him, maybe you'll get a deal done there, just because I just don't think it's worked here. I think he's been a bit overhated here in Cleveland. Like, he's done a good job, especially of being a secure tackler in the secondary. It's not very often where, you know, if a big play is happening, he's getting the guy to the ground and he's preventing touchdowns. He outside of, and I don't even think he was healthy for this game, outside of the long, like, George Pickens touchdown, that it was like a huge amount of run after catch yards. Like, I don't think Browns have had one with him there. So, you know, it's something that goes understated. But still, if you can't get something for him, I probably would. Yeah, linebackers had a rough day. Adjusting without JOK. And rightfully so. He's clearly the best player in that room. it's just we'll see what ends up happening. But on offense, I mean, at the end of the day, you didn't get enough from your running game, and you got terrible mistakes from your quarterback. Just kind of what happened. I mean, I thought that you're absolutely right. The play calling was not great. I thought that we were forcing Jameis to sit in the pocket a bit too much. And by a bit, I mean a lot. I mean, it got to a point where, like, every single play that we were calling were deep developing routes that took forever. And, I mean, the Chargers D-line's a good D-line. They're able to just send forward and get pressure, you know? And essentially what was just happening was they were giving you all of the short stuff over the middle. Like, I thought that David Njoku in this game was very underutilized. I thought that there were so many times in this game where if you would have had David on a drag, I thought that it would have been great. I thought it was there for you. I think we didn't do enough with, like, quick slants. There's so many other, like, short passing concepts that could have given you some explosive plays, especially run after the catch, that we just didn't turn to. They sat back defensively with their linebackers and their linebackers and their secondary. They sat back. They let their line get pressure, and we could not adjust. And that for me was a really damning thing. I don't even think I saw one screen call, which is ridiculous. Like, I thought that would have been a perfect game and a perfect opportunity to call a screen. There are lines all over you. Like, throw a screen, do something to try and neutralize the pressure.
And there were guys, the seams were open. Like, the way that the Chargers were just dropping back into zone.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but like you said, the middle of the field and the seams. Like, man, why? Tristan, we said last year how many times, like, hey, Njoku, run straight. Yeah. Like, literally just straight, turn around, catch the ball. Do what you do. Yeah, that was there.
Well, and you saw at the end of last year, like, how great David was after the catch. It's one of the things that makes him so valuable as a tight end, because not many tight ends in the league can do that. And it just feels like we were underutilizing him. And just, I feel like the game plan in total on offense was not good at all. Just didn't have anything going for you. And then defensively, you just had two unforgivable breakdowns. I mean, Derek, if we would have prevented those two terrible breakdowns defensively, we're looking at a 6-10 ball game, 10-6, 13-6 ball game going into the fourth quarter. Like, completely different. Boring, but completely different. So,
well, to add on to that real fast, also offensively, there was one touchdown left on the board. Cedric Tillman came in on that slant, hit him perfect, like right dead in the hands. And I'm not criticizing him; he's been playing out of his mind. But like, dude, he had a great game on the stat sheet. He could have had a much better game.
Yeah, he probably should have caught that one. And even like the hit that he took afterwards, like, it wasn't that crazy of a hit, but at the same time, I don't know. I felt like it was one of those things where Tillman was expecting the ball a lot sooner, and it just didn't get there in time. But at the same time, yeah, he's still got to bring that in, because that absolutely could have been a touchdown, and I mean, he made up for it later in the game, I'll tell you that much. That was an insane grab. He's easily the brightest spark on this offense right now. Easily, when I watch this offense, it's I look to see what Cedric Tillman's going to do. He's such an exciting football player, and I hope that the Browns really prioritize him next year as far as incorporating him into the offense and making him a priority in this offense. Yeah. And special teams, I mean, Bjork has had 2 great punts. Hopkins made his kicks for the most part. I mean, I don't know. Like, they had the terrible return. That's really all I've got to say about special teams. I mean, it's a 2-7 football team. It's not fun to talk about. There's nothing exciting to talk about here. Yeah. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But Derek, I have more fun thinking about talking about the draft than I do talking about this football team right now. It's just where we're at.
Yeah. Oh, believe me. I'm so tempted. Obviously, we're not going to do it today. We're at an hour. This will be the podcast.
Yeah.
But boy, like, get ready for our future episodes of this podcast to be, all right, who we drafting at quarterback? Who we drafting at receiver? Who we drafting at running back? Offensive line, defense? Like, oh, this is once again going to be a draft channel for the Cleveland Browns. Which I'm excited about. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a part of me that is very happy because, not that we're losing, but the draft is my fate. Like, terrible as it is, evaluating prospects, managing, like, who's the best fits, who's going to be the best in what we need. Like, it's my favorite thing because it forces you to take a look at not just the Bama players, the Georgia players, the Ohio State players. Then you look at, okay, Tetsuo McMillan is out of Arizona right now, and he's going to be a top receiver. Like, you get to see, and I'm not saying for the Browns, obviously could be, but, like, I'm saying when you look at it from, like, okay, the draft is this stockpile of a bunch of players from a bunch of different places, and, like, who's the best of the best? Like, I cannot... A part of me can't wait, but at the same time, boy, are we going to be busy. Like, boy, are we going to be busy. Yeah. So, I'm done.
Yeah.
If you're done.
I'm done. Let me just make sure that no trades have gone through. Let's see. Swiping up, and nothing. Okay.
Yep.
The whole point of us doing a podcast the next day was because at least we'd have one trade to talk about. Nothing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you what's going to happen, Derek, is, all right, so right now for you folks listening at home, it's 6:40 p.m. our time, right?
Mm-hmm.
In about 2 to 3 hours, trade's going to happen. All right, I'm calling my shot. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be like, oh my goodness, wow. Yeah, no, it's gonna happen. I'm so confident in this.
Myles Garrett traded for 10 first-round draft picks.
Now, if it's 10 first-round picks,
oh
but
man,
no. I think the max that you can trade is 3. I don't think you can trade more than 3 at a time.
I don't know.
I'm pretty certain. I don't know, but who cares? It's
all right, everybody.
Go Browns.
Go Browns. Bye.
Go Browns.